Captain Doyen stared at the screen in front of him. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair so hard that his knuckles turned white. On the display, he watched 2 human colony ships explode into bright balls of fire against the black space. Those ships carried families, children, people who just wanted to start a new life on a distant planet. "Captain, we need to jump now," Hana shouted from her station. She was his second in command, and her voice stayed calm even when her eyes showed pure terror.
"They're turning toward us!"
Doyen could see the Velkari warships on the radar. 10 massive vessels, each one 5 times bigger than his small merchant ship, the Starbound Hope. They looked like giant insects made of dark metal, with weapons pointing in every direction. "Jiho, send the distress signal to Earth. Send everything we recorded," Doyen ordered. The young communications officer nodded, his fingers flying across his control panel. This was Jiho's first mission in deep space. He signed up to see the galaxy, to meet alien species, to be part of something bigger than Earth. Instead, he just watched 2,000 people die. "Signal sent, Captain," Jiho said. His voice shook. "Jump!" Doyen commanded. The Starbound Hope lurched into faster-than-light travel just as green energy beams cut through the space where they had been seconds before. The ship shook and groaned, but it held together. They escaped. For now. In the quiet after the jump, Hana pulled up the recording they captured. "We got it all," she said quietly. The Velkari didn't even send a warning. They just fired. Doyen watched the footage again. The Velkari commander's face appeared on the communication channel right after the attack. Supreme Commander Thekrel. His species looked like tall lizards with 4 arms and gray scales. His eyes were cold and yellow. "This is a warning to humanity," Thekrel said in the recording. His translator made his words clear in English. "You expand too quickly. You take resources we claim. Stop your growth or more of your kind will die.
We allow you in this galaxy.
Do not forget your place." The transmission ended, just like that. No negotiation. No demands, just murder and a threat. "How long until we reach Earth?" Doyen asked. 3 days at maximum speed," Hana replied. 3 days felt like 3 years. When they finally arrived at Earth, Doyen reported directly to the military command. He showed them the footage. He told them about the 2 colony ships, the Bright Future and the New Dawn. He listed names of people he knew who died. The Henderson family with their 3 kids, Dr. Park, who was going to study alien plants, young couples who just got married, old people who saved their whole lives for a cabin on a colony world. All gone. The military officers watched in silence. Then they told Doyen to wait. Decisions needed to be made at the highest level. 2 days later, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. The council was where all the major alien species met to discuss important matters. Humanity got a seat at this council 15 years ago when humans first learned how to travel faster than light and met other civilizations. The council chamber was huge, with seats for over 40 different species. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others needed special environments. They all gathered to discuss what happened. The human representative stood and showed the footage. The chamber went silent as they watched the colony ships explode. Then the argument started. "The Velkari claim that space as their territory," said the Hixari ambassador. The Hixari looked like giant birds with 6 eyes. Perhaps the humans should have asked permission. Those were civilian ships. The human representative shouted, "Families. Children! War is unfortunate," said another ambassador from the Trell Collective. The Trell were small gray beings with large heads. "But the Velkari are powerful. They control much territory. We cannot afford conflict with them." "So you'll do nothing?" the human asked. "We suggest negotiation," the council leader said. "Both sides should talk. Find peaceful solution. They killed 2,000 of our people without warning. Yes, very sad. But starting war would kill many more. Accept loss. Make agreement with Velkari. Do not escalate." The human representative looked around the chamber. Every species avoided eye contact. They all feared the Velkari. Nobody would help. He left the chamber without another word. Back on Earth, President Sora Kang sat in her office. She was a serious woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. Before becoming president, she spent 30 years in the military. She knew what war meant. She also knew what justice meant. Her advisors argued around her. Some said to negotiate. Some said to accept it and move on. Some said humanity wasn't strong enough to fight. Sora listened to all of them. Then she stood up. "Prepare a message," she said. "Broadcast it to every communication channel in the galaxy. I want every species to hear it." "What message, Madam President?" her communications director asked. "Tell the Velkari they have 72 hours to surrender everyone responsible for the attack. All of them. They will face trial for killing civilians." The room went quiet. "And if they refuse?" someone asked. "Then we go get them ourselves." "Madam President, we're not a military power. We have merchant ships, colony vessels, a small defense fleet. The Velkari have thousands of warships. This would be suicide." Sora looked at him with cold eyes. "Send the message." The message went out 1 hour later. President Sora appeared on every screen in known space. Her face was calm, but her voice carried steel. "This is President Sora Kang of Earth. 72 hours ago, the Velkari Empire destroyed 2 civilian vessels carrying 2,000 human beings, families, children, people who had no weapons and made no threat. This was not war. This was murder. The Velkari have 72 hours from this broadcast to surrender every individual involved in this attack. They will face justice according to galactic law. If they refuse, humanity will come for them. You have been warned." Across the galaxy, species watched the broadcast. Then they laughed. Humanity had no fleet. Humans were newcomers, weak with only 15 years in space. They traded goods and built colonies. They talked too much in council meetings about peace and rights. They had no military power. The Velkari Supreme Commander Thekral watched the message and laughed the loudest. Surrender? To humans? The species that negotiated everything? The ones who asked permission and followed rules? He ordered his commanders to ignore the message. Humans were bluffing. They had no choice but to accept what happened and move on. This was how the galaxy worked. The strong did what they wanted. The weak suffered. 72 hours passed, nothing happened. The Velkari celebrated. They were right. Humans were all talk. Then on the 73rd hour, sensors across Velkari space detected something. Ships were appearing. Not 1 or 2. Hundreds of them. They came out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, surrounding 3 major Velkari military stations. The ships were painted dark gray with red markings. They carried weapons the Velkari had never seen before. Each one bristled with armor and guns. Where did these ships come from? The Velkari had intelligence on every human vessel. These were new. These were warships, a message broadcast on all channels. Admiral Tajin's face appeared. He was an older man with gray at his temples and eyes that had seen combat. "This is Admiral Tajin of the Terran Defense Fleet. The time for surrender has passed. This is no longer a negotiation. This is war, and you just made a terrible mistake. You declared war on the deadliest species in the galaxy. Congratulations. The transmission ended. The hunt had begun." 5 years before the Velkari attack, Dr. Yuna stood in a laboratory surrounded by alien biology samples. She studied DNA structures from 30 different species that humans had met since joining the galactic community. What she discovered changed everything. "This can't be right," she muttered, running the analysis again. The results came back the same. She called an emergency meeting with Earth's military leadership. In a secure room, she presented her findings. "Every spacefaring species we've encountered evolved from prey animals," Yuna explained, showing holographic models. "The Hiksari? Prey birds that learned to flee from predators. The Trell? Underground dwellers that hid from threats. The Velkari? Scavengers that ate what bigger creatures left behind. Even the species that seem aggressive, like the Karathi, were herd animals that use numbers for defense." Admiral Tajin leaned forward. "And humans?" "We're the only apex predators," Yuna said. "We hunted. We chased prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. We're built for combat in ways these species can't imagine. Our bodies produce adrenaline that makes us stronger and faster under stress. We have forward-facing eyes for tracking prey. We can function on minimal sleep. We heal faster. We have higher pain tolerance. And we're the only species that gets better at fighting when we're injured and angry." "So we're more dangerous?" an officer asked. "Potentially, yes, but there's more. These species don't understand real war. To them, conflict is territorial. They threaten, they posture, they have small battles, then they negotiate. They evolved to avoid fighting because fighting meant death. We evolved by fighting. We're built for it." President Sora, who attended the meeting, spoke up. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" "I'm suggesting we keep this information quiet. We build a real military in secret just in case. Because if we ever face a real threat, we'll need every advantage, and no one should know about it until we need it. That meeting led to Operation Homecoming. Quietly, Earth built a fleet. Old military officers came out of retirement. Engineers designed warships. Pilots trained in secret bases. Soldiers practiced tactics that aliens would never expect. They built 300 warships over 5 years. The funding came from classified budgets. The construction happened in remote areas of the solar system. Every human in space was given a secret code word. If they ever heard homecoming, they knew to return to Earth immediately. Nobody knew. Not the other species. Not the Galactic Council. Not even most humans. Now Admiral Tajan stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Resolute. Around him, 300 warships waited for orders. Each one carried human crew who volunteered for this mission. Many were civilian ship captains who learned combat in the last 72 hours. Some were construction workers who knew how to pilot. Others were scientists who could shoot. Hannah stood at the tactical station. After the Starbound Hope returned to Earth, she volunteered immediately. She knew the faces of the people who died. She wanted justice. All ships report ready, she said. Tajan nodded. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Tajan. You all know why we're here. The Velkari killed our people and laughed. They think we're weak. They think we'll negotiate. They don't know humans. They don't know Earth. Today we show them what happens when you attack the deadliest species in the galaxy. Follow your orders. Watch your squad mates. And remember, we're not here for conquest. We're here for justice. The fleet moved toward Velkari space. On Earth, Minho prepared his Special Forces team. Minho was a commander who specialized in boarding operations. His job was to train soldiers to fight inside enemy ships. It was dangerous work that required speed, precision, and courage. Listen up, he told his team. Velkari are big, strong, and they have 4 arms. They're also slow. They evolved as scavengers, which means they're not aggressive by nature. They rely on weapons and numbers. Get close, move fast, and don't give them time to think. His soldiers practiced in mock-ups of Velkari ship interiors. They learned how to move through narrow corridors, how to use zero gravity to their advantage, how to clear rooms quickly. The key thing to remember, Minho continued, is that they've never fought boarding actions before. To prey species, letting enemies get close is death. They'll be terrified when we breach their hulls. Use that fear. Meanwhile, Nari worked in a different kind of warfare. She was a hacker, one of the best Earth had. Her job was to break into Velkari computer systems and gather intelligence. Their security is terrible, she reported to her commanding officer. They don't expect cyber attacks. Most species in the galaxy have laws against information warfare. They consider it dishonorable. That's because they don't know how to fight real wars, the officer replied. Find me their fleet positions, their command structure, and their communication networks. Already done, Nari smiled, bringing up holographic displays. I can also broadcast our battle footage across the entire galaxy if you want. Save that for when we win the first battle. I want everyone to see what humans can do. The first battle happened at a Velkari military station called Outpost 7. 500 Velkari warships gathered there, waiting for the human fleet. They arranged themselves in a standard defensive formation. Big ships in the back providing long-range fire, smaller ships in front as a screen. It was the formation prey species used. Keep distance. Shoot from far away. Avoid close combat at all costs. The human fleet arrived and the Velkari commander smiled. 300 ships against 500? The humans were fools. Admiral Tajan looked at the enemy formation and felt something that scared the Velkari more than they knew. He felt excited. Humans called it bloodlust. The thrill of the hunt. All ships initiate wolfpack formation, he ordered. The human fleet split into dozens of small groups. Each group had 10 to 15 ships. They didn't form a defensive line. Instead, they charged straight at the Velkari formation. The Velkari opened fire with long-range energy weapons. Green beams cut through space. Several human ships took damage. 2 exploded, but the rest kept coming. They're committing suicide, a Velkari commander said, watching the humans rush forward. But humans didn't stop. They accelerated harder. Their pilots pushed their ships to speeds that should have killed them from the G-forces. Human bodies could handle it. Alien bodies could not. The human ships closed the distance in minutes. They flew right into the middle of the Velkari formation. Now, Tajan ordered, Swarm pattern. Every human ship released fighter craft. Small, fast one-person fighters that moved like insects. They swarmed around the big Velkari warships, too quick for the large weapons to track. The Velkari panicked. This wasn't how space battles worked. You kept distance. You traded long-range fire. You didn't fly into knife-fighting range. Human pilots laughed as they dodged around confused Velkari ships. They fired missiles at close range, targeting engines and weapon systems. They worked in pairs, one drawing fire while the other attacked. Then the big human warships opened up with their weapons, but they didn't target randomly. Dr. Yuna had given them detailed information about Velkari ship designs. Humans knew exactly where to shoot for maximum damage. Velkari ships started exploding. Their commanders tried to retreat, but human ships cut off escape routes. The prey species' instinct screamed at them to run, but there was nowhere to go. Board them, Taejin ordered. Minho's teams launched from their ships in armored pods. They slammed into Velkari hull plating and cut their way inside. The moment they entered enemy ships, close combat began. Velkari soldiers were big and strong, but they moved slowly. They aimed their weapons carefully. They tried to maintain distance. Human soldiers were smaller and faster. They didn't maintain distance. They rushed forward, firing as they moved. They dove and rolled. They used grenades to create chaos. They fought like predators who enjoyed the hunt. The Velkari had never seen anything like it. These small creatures moved through their ships like death itself. They didn't fear injury. When one got shot, he kept fighting until he physically couldn't. One human soldier took 3 hits and still managed to throw a grenade before collapsing. Another got caught by a Velkari's forearms and head-butted her way free, then shot her attacker at point-blank range. Velkari soldiers started surrendering. They threw down their weapons and backed away. This wasn't honorable combat. This was terror. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 320 Velkari ships were destroyed or captured. 45 human ships were lost. The galaxy watched through Nari's broadcasts. She hacked into every communication network and showed the footage everywhere. Species across known space saw humans fight for the first time. They saw human pilots pulling maneuvers that should have killed them. They saw boarding teams fighting through injuries. They saw tactics that seemed insane but worked. Most importantly, they saw humans do something no other species did. After the battle ended, human ships rescued Velkari survivors. They gave medical treatment. They treated prisoners according to rules of war. We're not monsters, Admiral Taejin broadcast to the galaxy. We're humans. We know how to fight. We also know how to show mercy. The Velkari leadership made a mistake. They murdered civilians. Now they'll face justice, but we don't punish soldiers for following orders. We don't harm prisoners. This is how Earth fights wars. With rules. With honor. But make no mistake. The Velkari Second Fleet was impressive. 5,000 warships, the largest military force ever assembled in this region of space. Supreme Commander Thekral sent his best admirals to lead it. They would sweep through human space and end this embarrassment. The fleet commander, Admiral Kresh, felt confident. We outnumber them 20-1, he told his officers. The first battle was a fluke. They used surprise and unusual tactics. We're prepared now. We know what to expect. They didn't know anything. Admiral Taejin studied the intelligence reports on his flagship. Nari had hacked deep into Velkari military networks. She provided exact fleet positions, command structures, even the personal communications between their admirals. They're predictable, Hana noted, reviewing the Velkari battle plans. They form defensive positions and expect us to attack. They still think in terms of prey species tactics. Then we teach them a new lesson, Taejin replied. Send orders to all ships. We're not engaging their main fleet. Sir? Hana looked confused. Humans learned thousands of years ago that you don't fight on your enemy's terms. You don't attack their strength, you hit their weakness. Their fleet is strong, but what supports that fleet? Understanding dawned on Hana's face. Supply lines. Exactly. No army can fight without food, fuel, and ammunition. Nari, show me their supply routes. Nari brought up holographic maps of Velkari space. Red lines showed the paths supply ships took from factory worlds to the front lines. They have 3 major supply chains feeding their fleet. If we cut those, their 5,000 ships become 5,000 floating metal boxes, Taejin finished. Target the supply lines. Split our forces. Hit them fast and disappear before they can respond. The human fleet divided into 50 small groups. Each group had 5 ships. They jumped to different locations across Velkari territory, targeting supply convoys, fuel depots, and manufacturing facilities. The Velkari didn't know how to respond. Their big fleet sat waiting for a major battle that never came. Meanwhile, human raiders struck everywhere at once. They destroyed a supply convoy here, captured a fuel station there, bombed a weapons factory somewhere else. It was death by 1,000 cuts. Commander Junho led one of these raiding groups. He commanded 5 ships and 200 Marines. His target was a supply depot orbiting a factory world. "Remember," he told his crew, "we're not here to hold territory. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we leave. The Velkari are expecting a stand-up fight. Don't give them one." His ships jumped in at the edge of the system. Sensors detected the depot immediately, along with 20 Velkari guard ships. 4-to-1 odds, his tactical officer reported. "I like those numbers." Junho smiled. "Attack formation Delta. Go." The 5 human ships accelerated toward the depot. The Velkari guards moved to intercept, forming their standard defensive screen. They expected the humans to slow down and trade fire at distance. Instead, Junho's ships activated a new weapon. Humans called it a missile swarm. Each ship launched 200 small missiles at once. 1,000 missiles filled space, all targeted at the Velkari formation. The Velkari point defense systems couldn't track them all. Explosions rippled through their defensive screen. Half the guard ships went down in the first 30 seconds. The remaining Velkari ships tried to regroup. Too late. The human ships were already past them, heading for the depot itself. "Prepare boarding teams," Junho ordered. "Minho, you're up." Minho and his Marines launched from their ship in armored pods. They hit the depot's docking bay and cut through the doors. Inside, Velkari soldiers waited with weapons ready. The fight was brutal and short. Velkari soldiers were strong, but they fought cautiously. They took cover and aimed carefully. They waited for clear shots. Human Marines didn't wait. They threw grenades to create chaos, then charged through the smoke. They fired while moving. They worked in pairs, covering each other with practiced efficiency. One Marine, a woman named Yunji, took a plasma bolt to her shoulder. The pain was incredible, but her training kicked in. Adrenaline flooded her system, dulling the pain. She switched her weapon to her other hand and kept firing. Another Marine covered her while she moved to safety. That's what scared the Velkari most. These humans didn't stop when injured. They kept fighting like machines. Except they weren't machines. They were predators who refused to give up. The depot fell in 40 minutes. Minho's team captured over 200 Velkari prisoners and secured massive supplies of food and ammunition. "Set charges on the fuel stores," Junho ordered. "We take what we can carry and destroy the rest." "What about the prisoners?" someone asked. "Load them on their own ships and point them toward their homeworld. Give them food and water. We're not barbarians." 10 minutes later, Junho's ships jumped away. Behind them, the depot exploded in a brilliant fireball. The Velkari guard ships that survived limped back to report the attack. Similar stories played out across 50 different locations. Human. Raiders hit targets and vanished before reinforcements arrived. The Velkari military scrambled to respond, but they couldn't be everywhere at once. Jiho, now serving on the communications team, monitored Velkari military channels. He listened to their commanders growing more frustrated by the hour. "They're panicking," he reported to Admiral Taijin. "They're pulling ships from their main fleet to protect supply lines. Their formation is falling apart." "Good," Taijin replied. "Now we hit the main fleet while they're divided." The trap was set. The Velkari fleet had split into smaller groups to protect their supply lines. Instead of 5,000 ships in one place, they had groups of 300 to 500 scattered across their territory. The human fleet gathered at a secret location, reassembled from their raiding missions. They'd lost 12 more ships in the raids but captured massive amounts of intelligence and supplies. "All ships present and accounted for," Hana reported. "We're down to 238 combat-ready vessels." "Pick your target," Taijin ordered. "Find me a Velkari fleet group that's isolated." Nari worked her magic, hacking into Velkari communications. I've got one. Fleet Group 7, 400 ships holding position near the Kelta system. They're guarding a major shipyard. The nearest reinforcements are 6 hours away. Perfect. All ships, jump coordinates locked. We hit them in 1 hour. The human fleet appeared in the Kelta system without warning. 400 Velkari ships faced 238 human vessels. The Velkari commanders felt relieved. Finally, they outnumbered the humans. This would be the battle that turned the tide. Admiral Kresh commanded this fleet group. He ordered his ships into defensive formation. Standard engagement pattern. We have numbers and firepower. Let them come to us. The human fleet charged forward, just like at Outpost 7. Kresh expected this. He'd studied the previous battle. This time, his ships were ready for close combat. They adjusted their weapons for shorter ranges. They prepared boarding defenses, but Tajin had learned something in 50 raiding missions. He learned that the best tactic is the one your enemy doesn't expect. Halfway through their charge, the human fleet stopped. They maintained distance from the Velkari formation. What are they doing? Kresh wondered aloud. Then the humans revealed their new weapon. Every ship launched torpedo drones. These weren't normal missiles. They were AI-controlled attack craft that could think, adapt, and coordinate with each other. 2,000 drones swarmed toward the Velkari fleet. They moved in patterns that seemed random but weren't. They dodged point defense fire with uncanny precision. When one got shot down, the others learned from it and adjusted. The drones reached the Velkari formation and chaos erupted. They didn't explode on impact. Instead, they attached to ship hulls and began cutting through armor. Some targeted engines. Others went for weapon systems. A few cut into life support. The Velkari tried to shoot the drones off their own ships, but that meant shooting at themselves. Their formation collapsed as ships tried to deal with the drones attached to them. Then the human ships opened fire with long-range weapons. They'd studied Velkari tactics. They knew when to fight close and when to keep distance. Flexibility was humanity's strength. Velkari ships exploded by the dozens. Kresh watched his fleet disintegrate and finally understood. These humans didn't follow rules, they adapted. They changed tactics every battle. You could never predict them because they never did the same thing twice. All ships retreat, Kresh ordered. But the human fleet had positioned themselves between the Velkari and their escape routes, another lesson humans learned long ago. Always control the exits. Surrender and you'll be treated fairly, Admiral Tajin broadcast to the Velkari fleet. Keep fighting, and you'll die. Your choice. Kresh looked at his tactical display. He'd lost 200 ships already. The drones continued tearing through his formation. Reinforcements were hours away. His crew looked at him with fear in their eyes. He made the only choice he could. All ships, cease fire. We surrender. For the first time in galactic history, an entire fleet surrendered to a smaller force. The human fleet captured 200 Velkari warships intact and took 30,000 prisoners. Admiral Tajin stood on his bridge, looking at the captured ships. Around him, his crew worked quietly. They were tired. Many were injured, but they were alive, and they'd won again. Nari, broadcast this to the galaxy, he ordered. I want everyone to see. The call went out across human space. Every merchant ship, colony transport, mining vessel, and private craft received the same message. Come to the rally point. Humanity needs you. They came, Captain Doyen, who started this whole war by escaping the Velkari attack, arrived in his repaired Starbound Hope. Engineers had welded armor plates to his merchant vessel and mounted weapons wherever they could fit. It looked ridiculous, but Doyen didn't care. I watched good people die, he told his crew. Now we make the bastards pay. Ships arrived from every human colony. Some were captained by old military veterans who knew combat. Others were piloted by civilians who learned to shoot in the past 3 weeks. One ship was a luxury yacht owned by a retired businesswoman named Soman. She brought her entire family aboard and armed them with whatever weapons she could buy. My granddaughter was on the bright future, she explained when questioned. I'm 72 years old. If I die ending these monsters, that's a good death. Within 5 days, the human fleet at the rally point swelled to 800 ships. Most were civilian vessels hastily converted to combat duty. They didn't look military. They didn't have matching paint or proper formations, but every ship carried humans who wanted justice. Admiral Tajin looked at his expanded fleet and felt emotion he rarely showed. Pride mixed with worry. Many of these people would die in the coming battle, but they came anyway because that's what humans did. When one was threatened, all responded. We're outnumbered 3-1 now instead of 13-1, Hana observed. Better odds. They're still civilians, Tejan replied quietly. Most have never been in combat. Neither had we 3 weeks ago. We learned fast, Tejan nodded. Brief all ship captains. Make sure they understand the plan. The plan was insane. It required perfect timing, absolute trust, and a lot of luck. It was, in other words, a very human plan. Meanwhile, on the Velkari homeworld, Supreme Commander Thekral prepared his defense. 3,000 warships orbited the planet in layered defensive shells. Planetary weapons pointed toward space. Every soldier on the surface stood ready. They'll come in waves, Thekral told his commanders. We shoot down their first attack, they retreat. We negotiate from strength. That's how civilized warfare works. His intelligence officer, a younger Velkari named Shen, spoke hesitantly. Supreme Commander, the humans haven't fought like civilized warfare suggests. Perhaps we should reconsider. The Galactic Council offers to mediate. We could negotiate now before more die. Thekral's yellow eyes went cold. We negotiate from victory, not defeat. Let the humans come. We'll crush them here. The Galactic Council watched from a safe distance. They sent observer ships to monitor the battle. Most species expected the humans to lose. 800 ships, mostly civilian, against 3,000 military vessels and planetary defenses? The math seemed clear. But Jiho, monitoring galactic communications, noticed something. Admiral, the Council observers aren't just watching. They're broadcasting live to every species in the galaxy. Everyone will see this battle. Good, Tejan replied. Let them watch. Let them see what humans do when we're committed. Dr. Yuna provided final intelligence briefs. The Velkari homeworld has 3 billion citizens, mostly civilians. When we breach their defenses, remember that. We're not here to hurt innocents. What about their military command? Someone asked. They're in a command bunker under the capital city. I've mapped the location. That's where Minho's teams will go. Minho prepared his Marines for the most dangerous mission yet, planetary assault. They'd drop from orbit in armored pods, land in the capital city, fight through whatever defenses existed, breach the bunker, and capture the Velkari leadership alive. Why alive? One of his Marines asked. They killed our people. Because we're not them, Minho replied firmly. We could orbital bombard their cities. We could kill millions, but that would make us monsters. We're here for justice, not revenge. We capture them alive, they face trial, and everyone sees that humans have rules even in war. The fleet approached Velkari homeworld. Sensors detected the 3,000 enemy ships waiting in defensive formation. Weapon systems locked on. Both sides prepared for battle. Then Admiral Tejan did something unexpected. He broadcast a message on all channels. Velkari civilians, this is Admiral Tejan of Earth. In 10 minutes, this battle begins. Your military will fire on us. We'll fire back. Ships will explode. People will die. We don't want to harm your civilians, so I'm giving you warning. Clear the orbital stations. Get away from military facilities. Take shelter. This is not your war. This is between our military and your leadership who murdered our people. For 5 minutes, nothing happened. Then civilians started evacuating. Velkari families fled from orbital stations. Workers abandoned military factories. Transports carried people away from danger zones. The galaxy watched in shock. Humans warned their enemies? Gave them time to evacuate? What kind of warfare was this? Thekral screamed at his commanders. Shoot them! Shoot them now while they wait. But his commanders hesitated. The humans were letting civilians escape. If they fired first while humans showed mercy, how would that look? The whole galaxy was watching. 10 minutes passed. Evacuations complete, Hana reported. Civilian stations are clear. Then we proceed, Tejan ordered. All ships attack formation. Remember the plan. The human fleet split into 3 groups. The first group, 200 warships, charged straight at the Velkari defensive line. The second group, 300 civilian ships, circled around the planet. The third group, 300 more civilian ships, held back in reserve. The Velkari opened fire. Energy beams and missiles filled space. The first group of human ships took heavy casualties. 20 ships exploded in the first minute, 30 more damaged. But they kept coming. The Velkari expected the human ships to break off, to retreat under heavy fire. Prey species would have. Even predators have survival instincts. Instead, the human ships accelerated harder. They flew straight into the teeth of the Velkari defense, taking losses but never stopping. They fired back with everything they had. "They're insane," a Velkari commander shouted. "They're committing suicide." But it wasn't suicide. It was sacrifice. The first group knew their job. "Draw fire, take damage." Keep Velkari attention focused on them. While the Velkari fleet concentrated on the frontal assault, the second group of 300 ships completed their orbit around the planet. They came up behind the Velkari defensive formation and launched every torpedo drone they had. 300,000 drones swarmed into the rear of the Velkari fleet. The prey species instinct screamed danger from behind. Ships turned to face the new threat, breaking their defensive formation. That's when the third group of 300 ships jumped in. They appeared right in the middle of the Velkari formation, where defenses were weakest. The Velkari fleet collapsed into chaos. They'd prepared for a frontal assault, maybe flanking maneuvers. They never imagined enemies would jump into the center of their formation. It was tactically insane. Those ships would be surrounded and destroyed, but humans didn't care about being surrounded. Mino had explained it to his Marines. When you're surrounded, you can attack in any direction. Velkari thought about escape routes and survival. Humans thought about maximizing damage. The three groups of human ships converged on the Velkari fleet from three directions. The battle became a chaotic brawl where Velkari numbers meant less. Their ships got in each other's way. They couldn't fire without risking hitting their own vessels. Human ships fought in close coordination. They moved in wolf packs, supporting each other. When one ship got damaged, others covered it. They fought like they'd done this for centuries, not weeks. The Starbound Hope, Captain Doyen's converted merchant vessel, flew alongside military warships. Its welded armor took hits that should have destroyed it. Doyen's crew fired their makeshift weapons with determination. "For the bright future," Doyen shouted as his ship destroyed a Velkari cruiser. Soman, the 72-year-old businesswoman, piloted her armed yacht with surprising skill. Her family manned the weapons. When a Velkari fighter tried to strafe them, her grandson shot it down with a missile. "That's for my sister," the boy said quietly. The battle raged for hours. Velkari ships exploded by the hundreds, but human ships fell too. The beautiful chaos of combat favored the side willing to take risks, and humans were always willing to take risks. When 700 Velkari ships had been destroyed, their fleet started to break. Ships retreated toward the planet seeking shelter under planetary defenses. "Now," Admiral Tajan ordered. "Minho, you're clear for drop." Minho's assault pods launched from his ship. 2,000 Marines in armored drop pods fell toward the planet like meteors. Velkari point defense shot down many, but enough made it through. The pods crashed into the capital city's main plaza. Marines poured out, weapons ready. Velkari military tried to stop them, but the Marines had trained for this. They moved through streets in small teams, clearing buildings, protecting civilians, advancing toward the command bunker. A Velkari mother screamed, sheltering her children as Marines ran past. One Marine, a young man named Hyun, stopped. "We're not here to hurt you," he said through his translator. "Stay inside. Keep your kids safe." The Velkari mother stared at him in shock. These monsters showed mercy. 2 months after the battle, the Galactic Council convened for the most important meeting in its history. The chamber filled with representatives from every spacefaring species. But all eyes focused on the human delegation. President Sora Kang walked to the speaker's platform. Behind her stood Admiral Tajan in dress uniform, decorated with medals for the battles he'd won. Beside him stood Hana, Doyen Minho, and other humans who'd fought in the war. The chamber went silent. 3 months ago, Sora began, her voice calm but carrying steel. The Velkari Empire destroyed 2 civilian vessels carrying 2,000 human beings. Families, children, scientists, farmers. People who just wanted to start new lives on distant worlds. The Velkari murdered them without warning, without reason, and without mercy. She paused, letting her words sink in. "We asked this council for help. You refused. You told us to negotiate, to accept our losses, to understand that the Velkari were powerful and we were weak. You chose politics over justice." Many ambassadors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Hiksari ambassador, the one who'd suggested humans should have asked permission, couldn't meet Sora's eyes. "So we handled it ourselves," Sora continued. "In 3 weeks of warfare, humanity destroyed the Velkari military, captured their leadership and ended their empire. We did what you couldn't or wouldn't do. We brought justice for our dead, the Trail ambassador stood. President Sora, the Council acknowledges your impressive military victory. However, we must discuss the manner of your warfare. Many species found your tactics disturbing. The violence, the aggression, the willingness to take casualties. This is not how civilized species conduct conflict. Sora turned her cold gaze on him. You're right. It's not. Because you don't know what real war is. You've spent millennia avoiding serious conflict because your species evolved as prey. You threaten, you posture, you have small battles, then you negotiate. That works when everyone follows the same rules. She walked to the center of the chamber, her voice rising. But what happens when someone breaks those rules? What happens when someone murders civilians and laughs? You couldn't answer that question because you've never faced real violence. You've forgotten that peace only exists when those who can make war choose not to. Dr. Yuna stepped forward with holographic displays. Let me explain something about human evolution. We're apex predators. We hunted for millions of years. We fought each other for resources, territory, and survival. We nearly destroyed our own planet multiple times. War is in our DNA. The hologram showed human history, ancient battles, medieval wars, world wars, nuclear weapons. The galaxy watched humanity's bloody past play out. But here's what makes us different, Yuna continued. We learned from it. Every war taught us lessons. We developed rules for warfare. We created concepts like prisoners of rights, civilian protections, and war crimes. We learned that the strongest species isn't the most violent. It's the one that can choose peace even when capable of war. Admiral Tajin spoke next. During our conflict with the Velkari, we could have bombarded their cities from orbit. We could have killed billions. We had the capability, but we didn't. We targeted military forces. We warned civilians. We treated prisoners according to standards we developed over centuries. We fought with honor even when our enemies didn't. He pulled up footage from the battles. The galaxy watched humans fight with terrifying efficiency. Then they watched humans rescue Velkari survivors, provide medical care, and protect civilians. This is how Earth fights wars, Tajin said. With rules, with discipline, with mercy when possible, but violence when necessary. We're not monsters. We're humans. And we're very, very good at this because we've been doing it for 10,000 years. The Galactic Council sat in stunned silence. They'd never considered warfare as something you could be good at. To them, conflict was something to avoid, not master. The council leader, an ancient being from the Kastari species, finally spoke. President Sora, the council recognizes that humanity has demonstrated unique capabilities. We wish to offer you a permanent seat on the council and control over galactic peacekeeping forces. Sora shook her head. We decline. The chamber erupted in confused noise. They expected humans to demand power after such a victory. We don't want to control the galaxy, Sora explained. We came here for justice, not conquest. We'll take our seat on the council, yes. We've earned that. But we won't command your peacekeeping forces. We'll create something different. She nodded to Hana, who brought up a new document. This is the Terran Accord, Hana announced. A defensive alliance. Any species can sign it. If you're attacked without cause, humanity will defend you. If aggressive forces threaten your civilians, we'll respond. We'll be the galaxy's shield because apparently someone needs to be. And what do you ask in return? The Kastari leader asked suspiciously. Nothing, Sora replied, except that you follow the rules. Don't attack civilians. Treat prisoners fairly. Fight with honor if you must fight. In return, humanity guarantees your safety. The galaxy processed this unprecedented offer. Humans wanted nothing. Just to protect others? The Hixari ambassador stood hesitantly. President Sora, I must apologize for my earlier words. When you first brought your complaint to the council, I suggested the Velkari had justification. I was wrong. I failed to understand that murder is never justified. The Hixari would like to sign the Terran Accord. One by one, species came forward. Within hours, 32 species signed the defensive alliance. More would follow in coming days. But the meeting wasn't finished. Supreme Commander Thekral and his command staff stood in holding cells beneath the council chamber. The trial would begin. Minho escorted Thekral to the chamber. The Velkari commander looked different now. His scales had lost their shine. His forearms hung defeated at his sides. He'd spent 2 months watching humans treat him fairly, feed him well, and give him medical care. It confused him. He was their enemy. Why show him mercy? The trial lasted 3 days. Evidence was presented, the footage of the civilian ships exploding. The communications where Thekral ordered the attack. His own words calling it a warning. Thekral didn't deny anything. What could he deny? Everyone saw the truth. Why did you do it? Sora asked during testimony. Those ships were unarmed. Those people were innocent. Why kill them? Thekral looked at her with his yellow eyes. Because we could. Because in the galaxy, the strong take what they want. Because I thought you were weak and wouldn't respond. He paused. I was wrong about everything. Yes, you were, Sora replied quietly. The strong don't take what they want. The strong protect those who can't protect themselves. Real power is having the ability to destroy and choosing not to. You never understood that. The council found Thekral and his command staff guilty of war crimes. The sentence was life imprisonment, not execution. Even after everything, humans insisted on mercy. The Velkhari Empire was dissolved. Their worlds would be governed by a new democratic system with council oversight. Their military was disbanded except for small defensive forces. But here's what surprised everyone. Humans stayed to help rebuild. Doyun, whose ship escaped the initial attack, volunteered to help transport supplies to Velkhari worlds. I lost friends to them, he explained. But their civilians didn't make that choice. They're just people trying to survive. We help them because that's what humans do. Engineers from Earth helped repair damaged infrastructure. Doctors treated Velkhari wounded from the war. Teachers helped establish new schools focused on peace instead of conquest. The galaxy watched humans win the peace, just like they won the war. With determination, skill, and unexpected compassion. Jiho, the young communications officer who started his career wanting to explore the galaxy, now wrote the official history of the war. He sat in his office aboard a space station, reviewing all the footage, all the records, all the testimonies. He wrote the final entry in his historical record. The Velkhari Supreme Commander once told humanity to know their place. He thought our place was beneath them, submissive and weak. He was wrong. Humanity's place in the galaxy is to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. Our place is to show that strength and mercy aren't opposites. They're partners. The Velkhari didn't just declare war on humans. They declared war on the galaxy's deadliest species. But here's the secret the galaxy now understands. We're not deadly because we're cruel. We're deadly because we're disciplined. We've spent 10,000 years learning how to fight and, more importantly, when to stop. Other species fear us now. They should. We can end civilizations if we choose. But they also trust us because they've seen that we don't choose violence unless forced. We came to the stars looking for friends, not enemies. The Velkhari made themselves our enemy. We responded with overwhelming force and perfect restraint. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy. The knowledge that peace requires guardians who can fight but choose not to. That civilization needs protectors who know war but love peace. That the deadliest weapon isn't ships or missiles. It's the discipline to use them only when necessary. Jiho finished his entry and sent it to the Galactic Archives. It would be read by every species for generations to come. On Earth, President Sora stood at a memorial for the 2,000 civilians who died. Their names were carved into stone, every single one.